All right, let's talk about a supplement that pretty much everyone associates with the gym. But what if I told you its most surprising and maybe even its biggest benefit has nothing to do with your muscles and everything to do with your memory?
You know that feeling, right, where your brain just hits a wall? You're trying to pull up a simple name, a word, anything, and it's just gone. That's not just brain fog. It's actually a tiny energy crisis happening right inside your head.
So when I say creatine, I bet the first thing that pops into your head is a bodybuilder, right? Well, that's really just a tiny piece of the puzzle. The reality is, at its core, creatine isn't really a muscle supplement. It's a cellular energy molecule. It fuels your entire body. And guess what? Your brain is one of its absolute biggest customers.
Okay, before we go any further, let's get one absolutely critical detail straight. Dosage. We are talking about 5 grams per day. That's grams with a G, not milligrams. 5 milligrams would do absolutely nothing. This one little detail changes everything, so it's super important we get this right from the start.
So, how in the world does this energy molecule actually help your memory? Well, it all comes down to solving that energy crisis we just talked about. The best way to think about creatine is like a super fast charging power bank for your brain cells.
Okay, a quick bit of science. The main fuel for your brain, and really your whole body, is a molecule called ATP. It's literally the energy currency of your cells. And your brain? It's an energy hog. It burns through about 20% of your body's entire ATP supply every single day. That's a huge amount for a single organ.
So here's where that power bank analogy really comes to life. When your brain uses up an ATP molecule for energy, it turns into a kind of drained battery called ADP. This is where creatine comes in. It swoops in, donates a little phosphate molecule, and bam! That drained ADP is instantly recharged back into a high-energy ATP ready to be used again. It's this incredible, non-stop, rapid recharge cycle.
The result of all this? Well, when you have more creatine available, your brain can basically refuel itself way faster. This leads to much better energy stability, and that is absolutely crucial when your brain is under stress, like when you're cramming for an exam or running on a terrible night's sleep.
Okay, so we've got the energy part down, but how does that actually power your memory? Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because it's not what you think. This isn't about making you smarter or boosting your IQ. It's something much more subtle. See, creatine actually has a hand in 2 very different types of memory. On one hand, you've got your cognitive memory. That's your focus, your ability to recall facts, your mental endurance. And on the other hand, you've got what we call muscle memory, which is all about training adaptations and how quickly you can regain strength after you've taken some time off.
Now here's the key thing to understand. These cognitive benefits, they don't just happen all the time. Creatine really shines when your brain is under stress. That's why the research shows the biggest improvements in people who are sleep-deprived, dealing with mental fatigue, or even just getting older. And it's especially powerful for vegetarians and vegans. Why? Because the main dietary source of creatine is meat. So if you're not eating meat, your baseline levels are naturally lower, which means there's just more room for improvement.
All right, this all sounds pretty great, but I know what you're thinking. What about the practical side of things? Let's dive into the specifics, dose, safety, and let's bust some of the biggest myths out there.
This table really settles the great dosage debate once and for all. You might have heard of people doing a loading phase with 20 grams a day. And yeah, that can saturate your muscles a bit faster. But for the long-term cognitive benefits we're talking about, 5 grams a day is the absolute sweet spot. As you can see, going higher gives you no extra cognitive benefit, no extra muscle saturation, but it does increase your risk of an upset stomach and, well, it costs you more money.
Let's be really clear about this. More is not better. Your brain and your muscles have a maximum storage capacity for creatine. Once those stores are full, which happens with a consistent 5 grams a day, anything extra is literally just wasted. It gets filtered out. So that whole more is better mindset, it completely fails here.
Now, what about neuroprotection? This is a really exciting area of research, with some studies suggesting creatine can help support long-term brain health. But we have to be super careful with our language here. Think of it as a supportive buffer, something that helps your brain be more resilient. It is absolutely not a cure for any neurological condition.
All right, let's do some rapid-fire myth-busting. You ready? First up, the big one you always hear. Creatine is bad for your kidneys.
Fact, that is completely false. Creatine is one of the most studied sports supplements on the entire planet. We have decades of research showing that for healthy individuals, it's totally safe for long-term use. End of story.
Okay, myth number 2. You have to cycle it on and off. Fact. Nope. Also unnecessary. In fact, it's the opposite of what you want to do. The whole point is to saturate your creatine stores and then keep them saturated. Consistency is the name of the game here. That's how you get the benefits.
So after all that, who is this actually for? Who could really see a difference in their day-to-day life? Let's talk about the real-world impact.
The list of people who could benefit is actually way broader than you might think. We're talking about students in the middle of exam week, athletes pushing through a tough training block, older adults who are looking for ways to support their cognitive health, shift workers whose sleep schedules are all over the place, and of course, as we mentioned, vegetarians and vegans who aren't getting much creatine from their diet.
Look, if you take away just one single thing from all of this, let it be this. Creatine's magic happens when your energy demand starts to outstrip your energy supply. It doesn't really make a well-rested, calm brain perform better. It makes a stressed, tired brain perform better.
And that really brings us to the final big question. If we have a supplement that is safe, incredibly cheap, and well-researched, and it helps our single most important organ, our brain, perform better when it's under pressure, should we really still be calling it just a gym supplement? Something to think about.